bees, butterflies, birds, and even snails. This collection has it all. Today I'm working with Colleen's pollinator-themed beads to create a nature-inspired design. So let's get started! Alright, so let's get started. And it looks like Kylie wants to be here too, so she might make an appearance. But this is what we get in Colleen's little kit. We have a cute little bag, like a makeup bag that you can use. And I use these actually out on my events and everything. I'll put little small things in it if I need to, or like my jump rings, some tools, things like that. So when I go out in the live events, I'll use something like that. Hi, Kylie. So this is what you also get. There are a couple of stickers in there. You also get a thing of chapstick that is the Burt's Bees, so it goes along with it. And then you have a thing of some wildflower seed beads. So you've got some seeds, not seed beads. I said seed beads. Good gracious. Okay, wildflower seeds. So you can plant those in your yard somewhere. So this is the bag that I ended up getting. Everybody got a slightly different bag, so you may or may not have gotten something that was similar to this. I'm not going to go through the whole unboxing because she has already done one herself, and I know there's been a few other people that have already come out with their unboxings too, but this is everything you get in her little collection that she has for the month of April. This collection is sold out. But it is, as of the making of this video, it is May 1st, so she will have a next one coming out probably pretty soon. So I'll just go through a couple of the highlights, the ones that I really like the most. This strand is absolutely amazing. You can see that it has beads that have bees on them. And Kylie's really wanting attention. I don't know if you can hear her purring or not. And then these are just beads that go along with those really well. So I'm kind of thinking about doing something wire working because I'm trying to get a little bit better with that. So I might be using these in a project. And of course, after this, we will have a little supplies needed page. So you'll definitely know what I'll be doing here in a few minutes. So that is a strand that I really like. These were ones that she wasn't quite sure if we were going to get two of these or not. There is an artisan that actually made these with the wire and everything, and she wasn't quite sure if we would be able to get two of these. So at the very last minute, they were able to ship her some more of her order that she did. So everybody that got this kit was able to get two of these. So these are amazing as well. Very fun, very interesting. Would love to be able to do those in a design, just not quite sure what I'm going to do with that yet. And then we have some of the snail beads down here. These are these glass beads. So they have almost a flat side. It's a little indented on the one side, but it's very much got a different size on the other side. So it definitely sticks out a little bit more on one side. But those are the snail beads, so you get 3 of those. And it's a range of colors. It looks like I got a pink, a yellow, and a green. You get some of these butterfly beads. Hold it up straight like that. And you get these cute little polymer clay ladybug beads, some mushrooms. So that's that one bead strand. And she put together this bead strand herself. She strung it all herself. So that is one thing. And then, let's see, this is the other thing that I was very much impressed about. Is the quality of these crystals. These crystals are amazing. They are so pretty, and they pick up on so many different colors. It's, hard to tell what the actual color is because it's like this one right here is picking up on the green seed beads sitting next to it. And then you see a little bit of pink every once in a while. You see clear sometimes. So I'm almost thinking it may be a vitriol color. I don't remember exactly what she had said as far as the color, if she said what it was. But these are very pretty. So I might be using that in a project also. So I'm just going to go through a couple of those things like that. There's some other beads, like these are little small flowers right here. You've got some gemstones up here. Some check glass rondelles up here. There's some drops and some bicones in a couple of different colors. You've got a couple of little bee spacer beads and some charms. And then you have some of the mermaid type glass that's over here. So you get all sorts of different types of beads and charms and things that you can use in your projects. So that's going to be my quick little overview. So meet me back in just a moment. You'll see a supplies needed page that if you would like to follow along. You don't have to use these exact beads. You can always use something that is of the same size. You can get your projects out and follow along and make something along with me. So I'll meet you back in just a moment. Alright, so I have 3 projects planned for you today. I'm going to do an earring, and then I'm going to come back and do a bracelet with you next, and then a necklace. And we're going to use different types of media in all 3 of them. So this one we're going to start off with using the craft wire from Softflex. This is the gold silver plated craft wire. I'm using the 20 gauge today. That's the color. So that's the only 20 gauge I have available at the moment, so it's great that it's gold. So I have 2 pieces of about 6 inches already cut, and then we're going to make 2 links with these 2 pieces with the beads and everything. Then we'll come back and we'll use this stainless steel jump ring and add that to the bottom, so that way we can add our cute little dragonfly. So I'm moving some of this off to the side just so we can get concentrated on these guys. So we are going to start with one of the pieces of the wire. I'm going to go about 1.5 inches to 2 inches down or so, and then make a bend in the wire. So go over your pliers, make yourself a little bend. You could do this with the round nose pliers too. I just picked up the chain nose, was the first thing I picked up. So, alright, so now I'm going to kind of measure where I'm going to make my loop. I'm going to go about 1/4 of the way down. So this is how I always look at it. And I'm sitting about right around half the length of the round nose pliers. So I'm going to go halfway between where the wire is and the tip. So we're just eyeballing it. If you are one that likes to have it almost exact, then get yourself a Sharpie and either mark right up here or down here on the bottom right next to your wire. And then that way you know, okay, that's where I was at last time. So now I move my wire to where it's about in the middle of the bend. So it's kind of like a 45-degree angle there. And then I'm going to take this short wire, go up and over the pliers until it comes completely to the other side. And it's touching. Now I'm going to open up the jaws, switch them to where now everything is on the bottom jaw. Then I'm going to take that working piece of wire, that small short piece, and it got wrapped around there, and go completely back to the back, just like that. So you complete your loop like that, and then when you take your wire or your pliers out, you should have a loop that looks something similar to that. I went a little bit too far past because this should be sitting perpendicular to the wire, the other wire right now. So I went a little bit too far, but that's okay. I am still learning how to do this. I'm getting better every time I try. But that's one reason why I wanted to do something with wire working today, so I can get a little bit more practice. Alright, so see how I kind of just corrected that loop a little bit and made it a little more like a 90-degree angle sitting right here. So I'm holding it onto the loop with my flat nose, and I think I'm actually going to use my pliers today. Now this one, when I was working with it, I accidentally did 3 loops. I was trying to do 2 loops around this guy, but I ended up doing 3. So I'm going to copy what I did. So I'm just going to take my chain nose pliers, hold on to the end of the small loop, and then just go around the base loop, or the straight wire, 3 times. So that's 2. And then go around a 3rd time because I accidentally went 3 times without realizing it. So I'm just going to make them look the same on both ears. Just like that. And then once you're around to the side, make sure you flush cut these guys down, the excess. And then you have a nice little loop that has been wrapped. I'm going to tuck in that little bit of a excess there at the end. And then I'm going to string on the beads. I'm going to use one of the black fire polish beads. I don't remember if these were fire polish, but they were on the string of the gemstones, so these might be a gemstone too. I should have gone back and actually watched her video. I'm going to put the yellow bicone on there before I started working on this, because it's been a little while since I've seen her video, her unboxing. So we're going to use the black beads, and then one of the bicones, yellow bicones, and another one of the black beads. Now I'm going to make my loop down here in the bottom, but I'm not going to complete my loop though. I am looking for my round nose that I put off to the side. Alrighty, so this one I'm going to line up my round nose. I'm going to make sure that my loop is sitting where I can pinch it in my fingers like this, so that way the loops are in the same direction. And then this one I ended up just lining up my round nose to the edge of that black bead there. So the edge of the round nose is up against the edge of the black bead. And then I'm going to make myself a loop again, 45-degree angle, up and over. Open up your jaws, flip it to the back, and then complete the short part towards the back. Again, I went a little too far, so we're going to correct that just a little bit. There we go. That's closer to a 90-degree angle of this part and then this part. And then I'm going to leave this one alone because I'm going to work on this one next. And the one thing I forgot to say beforehand is that I warmed up my wire before I actually started filming. And I warmed my wire up by using nylon jaw pliers or with your fingers like you just saw me do. Either way works. Alright, so now we're going to do something similar, about 1.5 inches to 2 inches down. I'm just going to make a loop over the wire. About 1/4 of the way through the wire, or through the round nose pliers, we're going to make ourselves our first loop. So just in the same fashion like we were doing. And then that's the way it looks. Now we're going to continue this one on. This is going to be the top of the earring, or the top of this portion right here. So this one's actually going to get just 2 loops. So I am going to grab my chain nose pliers on this one because it's a smaller piece. And I'm going to make sure I wrap around only 2 times. So there's one. And then that is number 2. And then when you come back to the front back here, or back up to where you started, that is where you cut off. Put that off to the side, tuck this down. So I'm still not perfect with my loops and my wrapping and everything, but I'm getting there. It's a work in progress. See how my loop on this one is kind of, it's not quite in the center, it's kind of off to the side a little bit. You can correct that a little bit by putting your round nose pliers back in there, and then just correct it the way that you need it to be. And then that corrected it just a little bit to where it's a little bit better, sitting more center with the loop. Now, like I said, this is going to be the top of the earrings. I'm going to go ahead and put on the gemstone that was in this kit, and then I'm going to put on the bee bead. And I'm going to make sure that the bee is facing upwards, so that way we don't accidentally put our earring on and our bee is facing downwards. Unless you'd rather your bee face downwards, that's perfectly fine too. Not all bees are going to be flying upwards the whole time. So you can always do it whichever way that you want, but I want it to match this guy over here. And I have my bee going upwards on this one. So now let's make our loop for the bottom down here. Now this one, we need to have our loop be in a perpendicular fashion. So the last one, we held it like this to make our loop at the top. This time we're going to hold it like this and make sure that our loop is in the opposite direction. So now I'm holding it between my fingers, but I'm holding it in a way that I can actually make the loop go in this direction now. So now we're going to do about 1/8 of the way down. Did I do that, or did I do 3? I think I did the 8th. Alright. And I actually used the edge of the bumblebee sitting there as kind of a gauge as to where to put the end of my wire, or my pliers. See how it's almost kind of sitting up against the edge of the bumblebee? So that's just one thing. I don't know if that's going to help you or not, but whoops. But that is one thing to try to do. Somehow I was way off target there. Oh, Captain's playing around in his kennel. And this needs to face me, Dina. There we go. So your loop down here needs to face you like that in order to make your loop go in a different direction up here on the other end. Alright, so let's see if we can do 2 of these. So then make our loop over the thing, over the pliers, up and around, and complete it, the bend to the back. I do have a tendency of going too far with that bend. See how it's facing that direction and not quite a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to hold on to the loop and kind of straighten that out a little bit. Now this was the side, yep, that I accidentally did 3. So I'm not quite sure if I'm actually going to be able to get 3 loops with this one. So this one may end up being 2, but it's long enough to where I can pull on it and wrap it at the same time. Yeah, I'm going to stop at 2. So it's going to be a little bit different than the other one. Still going to be perfectly fine. Not quite sure if somebody's going to look at your earring that closely to say, oh, you've got 3 loops on this one and only 2. Okay, well, you don't know what you're doing. I'm not sure if people are going to really do that, so. And then we're going to cut off at the end. The end of these pliers are just not the greatest. And since I'm using the 20 gauge, it just doesn't want to cut. It was cutting fine earlier. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, let me get the other ones out. And see if I can get... There it goes. Nice little click sound there. And then we'll use the chain nose pliers and then tuck these guys in. And then straighten that out. So you always want to look at your loops, make sure your loops are the way that you want them to look like and everything. Make sure everything is in the correct orientation. So we have this one right here, and then this one is perpendicular. So that is what we want right now. So that way our charm down on the bottom will actually fit in the correct way. So now we're going to go back to our first one. We're going to attach the top loop of, whoops, we got to open it first. We're going to twist this open like we would a jump ring. So we twisted open that direction. Now we're going to put this little guy on. And we're going to put it on to where this is the bottom loop of the top link. And then attach it to the top loop of the bottom link. Then we're going to close this guy up. And I'm going to hold on with these pliers just because it's easier to get into that little spot right there. And then we're going to carefully wrap around the base of this one 2 times. There we go. And then see which plier, oops, see which of these I can actually use to cut this stuff off. See, that one worked. See, I don't know. Sometimes it wants to work for me and other times it doesn't. And then we're going to tuck this guy in. Alright, so then that is the top link already connected just like that. So now I'm going to go top to bottom. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the ear wire and figure out which way my loop is opening, this direction. We're going to put this on first. Didn't open it enough. that doesn't want to open, does it? Why is it always whenever you're recording, you always run into problems? These are stainless steel ear wires too, so they are a little bit difficult. Alright, and then we're going to close this guy up, and then now we're going to, let's see. Alright, we're going to do that, and then we're going to add this down here. And when we add our charm, our earring will be complete after that. So this is how our earring is going to look at the end. Alright, so there is that one on. And good. The earrings, the little dragonflies, ended up being in the opposite direction, which is what I wanted. So there is our earring for this jewelry set. I'll be back in just a moment to show you how to do the bracelet. So let's get started on our bracelet for this collection. So we're going to use more of the bee beads, and then these were those decorative beads that came on there. These were the seed beads that were in between these guys. So I'm going to use all of these in the bracelet. And then we're going to use some of the drops and some more of the bicones. And I've got some crimps over here. I've got my lobster clasp. I usually don't use lobster clasps on bracelets, but I'm going to do that this time, so that way if I have to add an extender chain to it, then you'll be able to use a lobster a lot easier. So for this one, we're going to be using the Soft Flex beading wire. This is the 49 strand beading wire, and I am using the color white quartz today. That's only because we have the lighter color beads. So on this one, I don't want any other color to shine through on the beads. You'll see what I'm talking about after a little while. Alright, so I am going to show you the first portion as far as the pattern's concerned, and then after that, once we get to the center, then it's just going to be the opposite of what we struck on. So I'm going to start off with a seed bead, and then I'm going to do a black drop. Now the drops are more bigger down here in the bottom, and then they're more pointy at the top. So right now I'm going through the bigger side. Then we're going to pick up one of the yellow bicones, pick up a second drop in the opposite way. So we're going to go through the more pointier portion. So that way it kind of looks almost like wings around our bicone. And then see if I can try to remember my pattern. I believe it was a seed bead, and then we're going to pick up one of these guys, one of our specialty beads, and I think it was a seed bead again, and then we're going to pick up one of the bee beads. Now I'm going to make sure that all my bees go in the same direction, so I'm just going to go from the bottom to the top side. So that's what I have on so far. And then I'm going to do the opposite color. So I'm going to pick up these color of these beads, of the drops. So I'm going to pick up another seed bead again, go through the first yellow drop the same way that we did last time. So from the bigger side to the pointier side. We're going to pick up a black bicone in this one. So we're doing the opposite. And then pick up another one of our drops going in the opposite direction, so that way we have yellow wings on our black bicone. Then we're going to put our center portion, which is going to be a seed bead, one of these guys, a seed bead, and then one of these guys. Whoops, almost went the wrong direction. And then this bead right here is actually the center of it, of your bracelet. So now you should be able to go backwards this way. Let me make sure I didn't use up too many seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Perfect. Alright, so this is actually the center of the bracelet. So then we would start going backwards. So we're going to pick up a seed bead, one of the specialty cute beads. I don't know what to call that. Seed bead, and then this one, and so on and so forth. So go ahead and get this pattern strung onto your bracelet. Like I said, this is the center, so now everything on the right hand side is going to be the mirror image of this side. So make sure that you end with a seed bead and meet me back, and I will show you how to do the crimping. Alright, once you get everything strung on, it should look something similar to this. So you have your seed bead over here off to the left, and your last one that you added over here off to the right, and then all the pretty beads in the middle. Captain is going crazy. Alright, so we're going to put one of these crimp tubes on, and then we're going to create a loop. Oops, I'm going to go ahead and put the lobster clasp on this side. So go ahead and string on your lobster clasp on this side. I'm going to create a loop, so I'm going to go back through the crimp tube, and then pull that down, making sure that your wires stay on the same side of your crimp tube. I'm going to make just a small little loop like that, and then I'm going to put the crimp inside the crimper, which is the magical crimpers that I'm using today. I'm going to make my loop just a slightly bit smaller. I know it's a white on white, so it's kind of hard to see. So I just have the crimp in the middle of my crimp tube, and I'm just sliding it to the right until I kind of get the length that I'm comfortable with. So this guy, the lobster clasp, still has a way to be able to move around and everything in it as well. So now I'm going to hold on to the wires in the crimper and then squish down, and then open it up and then squish a couple more times until you get a good round bead. Oh, it got stuck. Sometimes it gets stuck in the crimper. Until you have a nice little round bead on your project. So I always go around this more times than you need to, but it's just me. It's just how many times I do it. So now your lobster still has room to be able to move around and everything, and then we're going to cut off the excess. Around a couple of times. That was weird. And then go up close up to the crimp and then cut that off. And then now you have one side of your bracelet complete. So, and that's the way it's going to look, just like that. So now let's cut off just a comfortable amount of wire down here on the other side. I usually do 3 to 4 finger widths, somewhere around in there, and that's just because it's easier for me to hold on to if I have a little bit larger a larger amount to hold on to. So I'm going to put the crimp tube on this one, and we're going to go back through here, and we're going to make the loop for the lobster clasp. Now this is where it can kind of vary. You can make a tiny loop and then add a jump ring if you like to. I don't have any gold jump rings out at the moment, so I'm just going to make the loop with the wire, and then that way if I have to add an extender clasp or extender chain later, I can. So the loop for the lobster needs to be a little bit larger than the loop that we made over here, so it's easier to hook onto. So there we go. And then I just want to make sure that this is not too tight, that the beads will still kind of sit nicely on your wrist. It is a little snug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on to, get the crimp inside the crimper, and then just move it down, kind of similar to what we just did with the other one. Just move it down ever so slightly on the bracelet, or on that loop. Okay, so right now it is right up against that seed bead, so I'm going to go just a little bit to the right. That may be a little too much. Let's see, let's try that one more time. Let's see, is that going to be actually okay? Yeah, that'll be okay. And see how I'm kind of squishing the bracelet together? I'm trying to feel the tension in the bracelet to see if it's gonna work out okay. So that should be okay actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and squish down and then hope for the best. I'm still learning how to do this as well. So this is why I have chosen to do these two projects as my first two projects, is I'm still kind of learning how to gauge where to put the crimp on projects that need crimping. So there is that crimp. Alright, so now we're going to cut off this excess, and then there is our cute little bracelet. So, oh, I was going to do a little charm with it also. So we're going to take our other dragonfly that we haven't used yet, and I'm going to go ahead and use one of the stainless steel jump rings just because this is the only one that I have out at the moment. And I'm going to add that onto, do I want to add it onto the loop? Sometimes it's kind of hard to get the lobster if you have that on. We'll try that first. But it may be one of those things that I just have to add on to over here off to this side. But we're going to add this guy. We're going to go ahead and add it onto the loop over here that we just made for the lobster. And then that way we have a cute little charm to kind of go along with our earrings. So that way we're not using the exact beads that we used in the earring, but they're similar enough that you can wear this as a set if you like. And then I always have a hard time getting lobster clasps on, so let me see if I can get this to work. So we're going to hold on to the dragonfly with the finger, and then I'm going to try to open this up and then get that to loop around. Haha, it worked. And then there is the look of the bracelet on the wrist. So there's the back side with the little charm, and then there is the front side. So it's a nice good length, or good measurement also, so it moves around the wrist very, very easily, but it's still not big enough to where it comes off the hand and stuff like that. So there is the bracelet for this collection. So meet me back in just a moment and we will do a bead woven and bead stringing necklace. We're going to do a bead woven little pendant, and then at the top of our pendant is where we're going to string on some more soft flex wire and do some stringing, bead stringing, to complete the necklace. So we're going to do this portion first, which is the bead woven portion. So I have a size 11 needle, slightly used needle. See how it's bent. Oh well, it's a size 11 pony brand needle, and then I have Wildfire 0.006 in the black today. And I've got probably about 4 feet or so of thread on here, and it may be perfectly the amount that we need, and it may be too much. We'll see at the end. We're going to start off with stringing on the gemstone and then a seed bead after that. So we're going to put on 6 gemstones and 6 seed beads. And then after you get the seed beads on in between each of the gemstones, just remember we started with the gemstones, we have to end with a seed bead. So that way we have 6 of each. And then just bring it down to the end and have just a comfortable amount to be able to hold on to, because we're going to go back through these beads one more time. Every single one of them. They are gemstones, so we're definitely going to want to make sure that we have plenty of thread paths through these. So we're going to go through these a second time. And I think I heard thunder again. We've got more thunderstorms in the area today. It's going to be a nice rainy day today. Good day to do videos. Alright, And then after I get that done, I want to go, this is our first gemstone that we went through, so I want to come out of the second gemstone. So go through the first one, the seed bead, the second gemstone, and actually come out of that second seed bead after that second gemstone. So that's where I'm gonna be coming out of. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna add some beads on the inside right here and make it look like it's more almost like a web. Now in this portion, you're going to see some of the thread paths, so you'll see what I'm talking about once we get this started and everything. You're going to see a little bit of thread. If that bothers you, go ahead and get some 11-ohs or 15-ohs out and just fill in those gaps a little bit with those seed beads. That will help cover up that thread. Now the reason why I'm using the black is, one, I'm using black seed beads, but also you see that thread path, and so it just kind of adds to it in a way. So I don't know, I just liked the way that looked, so I just kept it. So this first one, we're going to pick up 4 more beads. I think it was 4. Nope, 3 more beads. 1, 2, and 3. And then so we're coming out of this seed bead right here on the right hand side. We're going to go over to this seed bead to the next seed bead, so we're going to skip over the gemstone and go from the left to the right through that one. And then make sure that you tug a little bit on your working or your starter thread down there, just to kind of keep everything a little tight. If we have to, we can always go back around this edge one more time. But now you have your seed beads sitting kind of like wonky, but they're basically hugging the inside of that gemstone. Before we move on, we need to go back through that last seed bead that we added. So we're going to go through the last seed bead, and then that will help kind of tug everything together and it look more like it's going on the inside right here. So now all we have to do is add 2 more beads, and then we're going to go to the next seed bead on the right, and we're going to go from the left to the right of that seed bead. And then when you pull that, it kind of makes them sit a little bit better now on the interior. Before you move on, just make sure you go back through that last seed bead again in the opposite direction. And then give it a nice little tug, and then it'll help it sit better. I'll do that one more time. So 2 more beads. Then we're going to go to the next seed bead in the first round. Go from the right to the left to the right. And before you move on, we're going to go back through that last seed bead again. Just like that. I'll go ahead and I'll finish it since there's not too many more spaces to do, because that last one is slightly different because you only have to add that one last seed bead on that last little portion. And this is why I did not make a knot in my thread at the very beginning, is that I felt that if we made a knot over here with our starter thread, then these beads wouldn't have a way of loosening up just a little bit to give it a little bit more room, so there's room to be able to add all these extra beads. So you can always make a knot there if you like, but I just know with my tension, it just works better this way. Alright, so now we're back around to that last gemstone, so I'm going back through the seed bead, the last one that we added. So now if you look, we have the 2 seed beads here and the 2 seed beads on the right. So all we have to do is just add that one seed bead in the center. And then now we're going to go up this seed bead right here. So this is one of the first seed beads that we did in this group of 3. So we're going to go up this one. Now we need to wrap around this seed bead here, so continue to go from the left to the right through the seed bead in the original loop. And now we need to get ourselves back down here again. So we're going to go back down that first seed bead. And then we're going to get ourselves into that middle seed bead. And then this kind of gives you an idea of the amount of thread that is seen in between your beads. You can actually see a little bit of thread. You can see it better when I move my fingers out of the way and see how loosely, whoops, See how loosely the seed beads are kind of moving, those fifth beads there in the center. So if that bothers you, like I said, you can always add some 11 O's or 15 O's. So now all we're going to do is we're going to connect all 6 of these beads. So just go through the center bead of each of these. And we're going to do this twice. Go through these center beads twice. So if you have to, you can always count your beads if you get lost on where you're at. Like if you have to move this around in your hand and stuff. So then this is bead number 1 and 2. And then I'm giving it a nice little tug each time I do it. And then 3, 4. And then 5 and 6. Alright, so now that you have gone back through, I'm going to go ahead and go back through number 1 again. So that way it completes that one out. Now that you've gone back through, you want to look at your little hexagon that you made. So you have your 6 sides. So your little hexagon that you made, you want to look and see which one do you want, or where do you want the top of your pendant to be, and where do you want the bottom of the pendant to be. And in mine, I just happened to pick up 3 lighter beads and 3 darker beads there. So I think I might make it that way. So this is actually going to be the bottom, and then this is going to be the top up here. I think I'm going to do it that way. So I flipped it all the way around in my hands, and you can do it whichever way that you want. You know, yours could look like this if you want it to look like that. But mine, it looks like these are a little bit more lighter in color, so I'm going to do that and have the darker down on the bottom, I think. Now I'm going to pick up my bicone. So we are coming back out of that first seed bead, which is this one right here, which is now the bottom of my seed bead. So I'm coming out of the left-hand side of this one. I'm going to go directly across to the middle seed bead on the other side of the hexagon. On this one, I'm going to go from the right to the left. Here again, this is just my tension. I know that if I do it in this way, I know that my tension will be a little bit better. It'll look a little nicer. And I totally got myself all mixed up. Alright, there we go. So it should look something similar to that. Now we're going to go back through the bicone again. And then back through that seed bead up here at the top from the left to the right. And then we're going to go through these seed beads in the bicone one more time. So we're going to put a total of 4 thread paths through this bicone. So go down the bicone, go from the left to the right, go that seed bead up through the bicone again, and then left to the right down here, or up here. Well, come on. There we go. Alright, so then now, get it oriented in the right way. So now that is going to be the top of my pendant up here, and then this is going to be the bottom down here. So now we need to get back down to this bead right here. To do that, we can go to the bead on the left, which is this one right here. And then we need to go through this seed bead, but go from the left to the right. And then go ahead, if you can, and get through that gemstone as well. So now you're down on the bottom. Right here, we're going to add, I think it was 7. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 seed beads. We're just going to make a round with that. And that'll lay those 7 seed beads down like that, and below it, we're going to go through these seed beads 2 more times. One more time, we're going to go through every single one of them. So go through all 7 seed beads again. And then go back through the gemstone. On this last pass, we're going to go through the first 3 seed beads. Then we're going to make that 4th one stick out more like a picot. So I flip this in my hand so it's easier to show. There we go. Make sure it's focused. So I'm skipping that 4th seed bead, and then I'm going to go back through the last 3. And then to help it stick out as a picot, I'm moving the working thread is kind of out of the way, and then I put my needle through the bead that I want it to stick out, just making sure that the needle doesn't go back through the thread again, because if you go back through the thread by accident, you're going to make a knot. So we don't want to do that. So we want to make sure that the needle is either on the front side of this loop or on the back side of this loop. It doesn't matter which one. But I'm just going to leave the needle in the bead just like that, and then I'm going to pull on the working thread. And then when you pull tight, you now have a picot bead sitting there. So then now you just take your thread back out and you're good. So now we're going to go back through the gemstone one more time. And then we're going to weave our way around to where we're coming out over here off to the side through this seed bead so we can tie off. So I'm going to go through here, this seed bead first, and then figure out how I can move my thread around to where I am going in this direction. So I'm going to go through this seed bead down here. So that's like this, the second one right there. Cosmo's now yelling at me. She got left out. And then I'm just going to go around this loop of seed beads. This is the 6 beads that we connected in the center of the 5 beads. So I'm going to go through those beads until I get to the one that's directly above where the bicone is sitting. So there, that's number 2. Give me a minute, Cosmo. I'll let you back in. It's up to that one, and then this one is the one that's sitting directly above the bicone, which you can go back through the bicone if you wanted to do that too. Then I'm going to go up this seed bead right here that is on the side of that gemstone. And then I'm going to go through the seed bead up here at the top, from the left to the right, and that gets us where our starter thread is at. Right here, we're going to go ahead and tie off. And, whoops. Alright, come on now. There we go. And then in opposite direction. I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time. You don't have to make 3 knots, but I'm going to go ahead and do 3 knots today. And then I'm going to proceed through that gemstone that's on the right, and then come out the seed bead on this side as well. And then that is where I will burn off my thread. And get my other piece out of there. There we go. And then that will help get that knot to sit inside that gemstone as well. So this is where I will burn off. And then I'll let you get caught up to this. And then I will show you what we're going to add to that little picot stitch down here on the bottom. And then we'll come back and I'll show you the pattern for what I did as far as stringing the necklace portion of this and how I did it. So that is how the pendant looks like at the moment. So meet me back and I'll show you what we're going to put down here at the bottom, and then we'll finish the stringing of the necklace. Alright, we're going to create a similar little drop to what we had in the earring for the drop for this little picot stitch down here. So I've got my craft wire back out again, the 20 gauge, and the gold silver plated by Soft Flex again. And I have another 6-inch piece that I have warmed up again. So we're going to do something similar, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches down, somewhere around in there. Give yourself enough room to be able to do your loops. Go about 1/4 of the way on a 45-degree angle, and then make your loop up and around. And then continue to the back. Make sure everything is really nice and tight. That's a pretty good loop. Then we're going to hold on to the loop. And We're going to try to make only 2 loops around this wire itself. So we're going to hold on with the chain nose, and then as I'm wrapping around, I'm also pulling on the wire also, and then that helps to keep the wire tight up against this portion right here that we're wrapping around. So that's why it kind of comes out of my hands sometimes, or comes out of the pliers, because I'm pulling on it, and so it sometimes does that. So then that is what your loop looks like. You wrap around the base. Then we can cut off the excess of this guy. And then we'll tuck in that little bit that is left over. I can always come back at the end once I get the beads on it, and then tuck it in at that time too. Then we're going to use one of the fancy little balls that we used in the bracelet. So this is helping to tie together our bracelet now. Then we're going to go ahead and just put one of the bees. There again, I'm going to have the bee face in the same direction as the earrings did. So now we have to make our loop down here at the bottom. So the loop on the bottom, I want the loop, yeah. So the charm that we're going to put on, the loop is facing us. So we want this loop to face us also. So it's going to have to go in the same direction. Does it go in the same direction? Hold on, I'm thinking. Yeah, it does go in the same direction as this one. So then this one down here, we're going to have to hold and pinch it in our fingers like this. So that way the loop is in the same direction, I think. Hold on, let me think about that. Because we're going to have a loop up here, so this one actually has to go this direction. So it does need to go perpendicular. Okay. Alright, I'm glad I kind of thought about that. So this loop needs to sit like this when it's attached. You can always fix it at the end. I just want to try to do it right the first time. Alright, so here, and then I need the loop to face me on the bottom. So yeah, I'm doing that right, I think. So, but that's going to do it that way. So no, you have to hold it this way. Okay, so I need to pinch it to where I'm holding it like this, so the loop is facing me down here. Okay, we got this. We got this. Alright, now I'm going to use my round nose pliers, make sure I'm up against all of the beads, and then try to go about 1/8 of the way down, so just a little small portion. Then I'm going to fold over, and then 45-degree angle it, or so, up and over and around. Okay, and then hold on to it, straighten it out just a little bit, and then make our 2 loops, wraps, around our base. Let's see, I don't really like those loops, those wraps. Let me see if I can unwrap it and see if I can kind of save it. Alright, so I'm kind of tugging a little bit tighter this time. Sometimes I try to get things done a little bit faster than I should. So if you're new at this, like I am, I should be going a little bit slower than I am. Alright, yeah, see that side doesn't look all that great. Okay, but that's really not too bad. It doesn't look terrific, but it is right up against the bead, so I don't really have that much more room to do. Okay, it is what it is. I'll leave it. But take your time with it, and don't go too fast. If you're going too fast, then you can make more mistakes that way. So if you're still learning and still figuring out how to hold everything in the correct way, then just take your time with it. Alright, so now I'm going to just make sure that portion is kind of tucked in a little bit. And all I'm doing is just squishing just a little bit. I'm not pushing really, really hard on the pliers because I don't want to break any of the beads. And then I'm going to make sure that this side's kind of squished a little bit too. It looks pretty good at the beginning, but just make sure it's okay. So just give it a couple little squishes. And then now we're going to do our test. So this loop down here is in this direction. This loop is on that direction. So perfectly fine. We've got our loops in a perpendicular way. So now all we have to do is assemble it to our pendant. So I'm going to pick up one of the jump rings, open that up. Now when you're attaching a jump ring to a seed bead, I would always suggest to put it on the seed bead first. It's just a lot easier to get it on that seed bead first than trying to get whatever else that you're trying to attach to it on there and then try to get it in the seed bead. It's just a lot easier to do that first. And then the top of that, and then we'll close this guy up. Hopefully I don't drop it. There we go. He's still not closed all the way. Okay, that feels like it's better. I'll look at it later and make sure it's closed all the way. And then now we're going to put our little mushroom charm to kind of go along with the earrings. At least a similar theme. And this mushroom charm is double-sided also, so it doesn't really matter which way that you put it on. And then once you get this guy closed, that looks good. I'll look at that off screen, a little bit up close. That is the completion of our cute little pendant. So now I will get some beads out and I will create a pattern to use on our necklace, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what that pattern is so you can follow along if you like. Alright, so now I'm going to show you the pattern that I used for the necklace. I've already got the one side already strung, and then I'm going to string on the other side off camera too, so that way you don't have to watch me just string on the beads. But I'll tell you what the pattern is in just a second. So I got the Soft Flex beading wire back out again. I'm using the black onyx color, so it's this one, the black onyx color on this one. And this is what I was getting at the very beginning as far as in the bracelet I didn't want to see the wire through the beads, but here on the necklace you will. You'll see the wire through the beads. I just wanted to use the black on the necklace, so it's one of those things. Alright, so what I ended up doing first was I strung the wire through the center of the topmost, or through the topmost bead here at with our pendant. So I strung the wire through there, and then I started adding beads and then seed beads in between each one of them. So I started off with the black bicone, then I did a gemstone, the yellow bicone, gemstone, and then the fire polished bead, which I don't remember if it's a gemstone or a fire polish, one way or another, still pretty. Then we did the gemstone, and then I kind of went backwards. Did the fire polish again, gemstone, yellow bicone, gemstone, the black bicone, whoops, gemstone. Then I ran out of gemstones, and then I did a yellow bicone, and then ended up with the fire polish. So I basically added seed beads in between, and then just did the gemstones in between each of the specialty beads until I ran out of gemstones, and then I just finished out the pattern itself. Then after that, I am making a 16-inch necklace, so we need to have about 15 inches or so of beads on our necklace portion of it, because we're going to leave about an inch or so for the clasp. So for that, I ended up adding that last seed bead after this fire polish. So after that, I added approximately, what was it, 3 inches, I believe? Yeah, it was somewhere around 3 inches of seed beads. So for the Miyuki seed beads that I'm using, it's around about 13 beads for the 8/0s to get to an inch. So then 13 times 3 is 39. So I added 39 more seed beads to this side. And then I used the crimp tube and then attached the lobster clasp on this side just the same way that we did with the bracelet. So if you need a refresher on that, then you can go back and look at the bracelet to figure out how to do that. So now I'm just going to continue on with stringing this side, and all I did to figure out how much of wire that I needed on here, because I left everything on the spool just like we did with the bracelet. I laid everything down like this and then said, okay, here's the end of the necklace, and then I gave myself about another 4 to 5 inches or so. This is probably closer to like 6 inches again, but I gave myself enough to where I can hold on to it and make another loop with this one. We're going to do a similar loop that we did with the bracelet. Here again, I'll pick it up and show you. So we're going to have a nice large loop right here. And then at the end of that, I had one more bicone left over after everything, and so I just made a cute little charm that I am going to put on the end of the necklace. Now I'll most likely put an extender chain on this because not everybody likes very tight fitting necklaces. So most of my necklaces have extender chains on it. So if I do put an extender chain on, then I'll end up putting this on at the very end. So I'll go ahead and I will get this strung on, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what all of these 3 items for the set look like. So here is the set that I made from the beads that I got from Colleen's shop off her Etsy shop. So these were the earrings that we first started off with. I'll hold these up so we can see those closely again, just as a little recap. So there are those very cute little earrings. Here is the bracelet that we made. Just a nice, very easy strung bracelet. And then with our dragonfly clasp. And then here is the necklace that we used, where we did the bead woven portion down here. And then we did the wire working here. And then bead stringing with our necklace portion. And I wonder how many of you realized that I put the clasp on the wrong side. Which is okay. It happens. It's one of those things. But yeah, typically the clasp is on the right side of the necklace, not the left side. And it could be one of those necklaces that you can wear as a reversible necklace. You can put the crystal on in this fashion, which that means that the clasp would be on the left side, or you can flip it around and have not as much of the crystal shining through, just a little bit of the yellow shining through there. So it actually could be worn either way. So that is this month's set for Colleen's beads that she released. So meet me back pretty soon, because I'm pretty sure she's going to have another set of beads coming out for the month of May. So I hope you enjoyed this one. And here's the finished set. Each piece is a little different, but together they tell the same pollinator story, and I love how that came together. Which piece is your favorite? The earrings, bracelet, or the necklace? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to check out Colleen's next bead drop. I'll see you there!